but I can't figure out what, because I don't have a body anymore. So I'm mostly just waiting and listening to the crying, hoping it will stop.
2. Eden. I told them I didn't want to come today, but they didn't listen. They don't listen to me anymore. They used to before. We'd all sit around the table at dinner, and Mom and Dad would make us talk about our days. Jonah never said much. Mostly finger painting and jungle gym stuff, kindergarten stuff. Mostly. Sometimes he'd talk about the stupid, jerky kid Jesse, who was always getting into trouble for doing stupid, jerky things. Sometimes he'd talk about books. He was learning to read, and he liked this one book a lot, The Little Rose, and he could read it good, too, even though it was a first-grade book. But mostly he'd talk about coloring and drawing pictures. He loved to draw pictures. Mom and Dad would ask me to tell them about my day, and Mom would put down her fork and knife and look at me full on, her blue eyes totally focused on me like I was the only one in the room, and I'd tell her about school from start to finish. Dad would listen too, but he'd still be eating, even though he'd nod and ask questions, sometimes with his mouth full, and Mom would give him a smack on the arm and tell him he was being a bad influence on us for talking with food in his mouth. Mom and Dad don't ask me about my day anymore. They don't ask me anything anymore. Mom doesn't even really look at me. Her eyes have changed, like they can't really focus on anything. They're shiny, and not just from tears. I heard Aunt Ruth say something to Louisa about medication. I don't know what that means. I had to take medication when I got an ear infection last year, but I'm pretty sure it didn't make my eyes shiny, so Mom must be taking a different kind of medication. Kind of medication that makes her not listen to me anymore. I don't think Dad is taking medication, but he doesn't listen to me either. His eyes aren't shiny, but he has this really deep crease between his eyes always, like he's thinking hard about something, trying to figure something out. The kind of look he used to get when we did puzzles at the dining room table or played Wii bowling in the living room or when he helped me with fractions. Now he has that crease all the time, but he just wanders through the rooms of the house like he's looking for something, but never finds it. And when I talk to him, he turns his head and looks at me, but like he's looking through me. Like whatever he's trying to find is right behind me, and he never answers my questions quite right. Like yesterday, I asked him if he knew where my softball helmet was, and he told me he didn't think it was going to rain today. They said it was time for me to go back to school. It was Aunt Ruth, actually. She did all the talking while Mom sat on the couch with her shiny eyes staring down at her hands in her lap. Dad was standing by the window looking out at the front lawn with that crease in his forehead that looked like it hurt. And Aunt Ruth kept talking, saying things had to get back to normal at some point. I wanted to argue with her that things would never get back to normal. Normal was walking my little brother to the kindergarten gate. Not because I wanted to, but because my mom and dad made me, but I kind of liked the feel of his chubby little fingers holding tight to my hand, like I was his champion or something and would protect him from anything that could hurt him or scare him. Normal was going into Mrs. Hartnett's class every Tuesday and Thursday for kindergartners. They put me with my brother because that's the way they do it with brothers and sisters. And listening to him read and helping him with the big words that he couldn't understand, but a fifth grader, his reading buddy, could tell him what they meant. Normal was walking home from school with my friends, pretending Jonah wasn't there, but always checking every few minutes to make sure he was only 4 or 5 steps behind me, rolling my eyes when he called my name. Nothing would ever be normal again without Jonah. But I kept my mouth shut because I knew Aunt Ruth wouldn't change her mind, and with Mom and her shiny eyes and Dad and his creased forehead, she's kind of in charge of things right now. So here I am, and Mr. Libby is writing something on the smartboard, and Betsy Morgan is staring at me and whispering to Ava Landau, and Matt Boyles and Josh Hannapel and even Ryan Anderson are trying not to sneak glances at me but failing epically, and all I want to do is disappear, melt into my...